Joe Biden, the man is awful. He's terrible at this job. America knows he's terrible at the job.
Everyone knows. This is not a conversation.
We have lost 7 United States embassies under his presidency.
Yes.
What does that mean?
So we have embassies all over the world in
Yes.
every country. That is essentially sovereign American
American
territory. Under his watch, we have had to evacuate 7 United States embassies.
I did not know
that.
that.
Has never happened in American history.
That's how weak
Never.
we are. That's how weak we
That's
are.
how
right now.
weak we are on the world stage.
Another rocket barrage against American personnel inside Iraq. Is this now fits a pattern? Folks, this was the 3rd such attack in the past 8 days alone.
That's how bad it is.
Okay, help me. Why has that happened? Why are we evacuating? Because there's no protection, there's no fear.
I'm gonna say real quick, and I'm gonna give it to Wesley.
Yeah.
When you are weak and our adversaries know you're weak, they push you. It's no different than the bully in the schoolyard. If you're timid and the bully knows he can get away with it, what happens? He comes for your lunch money every single week.
Yes.
Every single day.
Until you punch back.
Until you punch back. We have been weak under Joe Biden. And so our adversaries around the globe, big and small, know that they can push us. Go ahead, Wesley, you go. You can talk.
I'm going to give you my favorite President Trump story. This is my #1 favorite of all time. When we were negotiating with the Taliban, while President Trump was still the president, President Trump wanted to get out of Afghanistan, but he wanted a conditions-based withdrawal, meaning that you do what we tell you to do, and then we will start pulling troops back slowly as long as you abide by our rules. It's President Trump and Mike Pompeo, and they are talking to Taliban leadership in the room, and they had one translator in the room. President Trump looked at the Taliban leader and said this: I want to leave Afghanistan, but it's going to be a conditions-based withdrawal. And translator translated. And he said, if you harm a hair on a single American, I'm going to kill you. And the translator goes, and Trump goes, tell him that.
Translate.
Yes.
Tell him what I said.
Tell him what I said. Reached in his pocket, pulled out a satellite photo of the leader of the Taliban's home and handed it to him.
Shut up.
Got up and walked out the room.
Sure did.
Do you know for 18 months not a single American was killed in Afghanistan?
Sure did.
That's the definition of strength. That's what I'm talking about. And so you could imagine that kind of sentiment being around the world. If we have an embassy in another country, no one's going to touch it because they're going to be fearful that they'll get a Moab on their head. That's how President Trump rolls. This is the opposite of strength. This is the definition of weakness.
So Donald Trump, and I believe him, said to these guys, mano a mano, you don't participate in a coalition government, you attack Americans, do anything, okay, then we're coming back and we're going to get you personally. So it stopped. Well, Trump left office and Biden came into office. It stopped because the Taliban believed Trump. They don't believe Biden.
Well, we see that
And the
happening
other
in
thing
Ramadi.
is with the terrorists, you have to take out their families. When you get these terrorists, you have to take out their families. They care about their lives. Don't kid yourself. But they say they don't care about their lives. You have to take out their families.
You said it 3 times.
Yeah, that was so shocking that even the Fox and Friends crew didn't nod along. Normally they're like,
Yeah.
right?
You know, you're like, oh, look at that.
And they were like, they seem to have this look like, really? Okay.
No, they just went on as if he hadn't said anything about killing the innocent families of terrorists.
Yeah, she was like, oh, look at that.
So he said 3 times you have to take out their families.
You're like, oh,
I would do my best. I would do my best to not kill innocents.
oh, look at that.
Oh, by the way, I'm also intentionally going to try to kill the families of terrorists.
Really? Okay.
We say very often it's frustrating that the idea that if you bomb
You're like, oh.
the people who lose family members there might become more radicalized or more...
And we've hit the Taliban harder in the last 4 days than they've been hit in over 10 years.
Fine.
That story, I can picture
All-time
happening.
favorite story. Of course it happened.
And on the other side,
Yeah.
I interviewed President Biden a month after he took office.
Really? Okay.
It was fine during the interview. And then, but actually technical issues leading up to it, I had to fill time. I was like, oh, goodness gracious, I got to fill with the sitting president and it's via satellite. And
Oh, look at that.
I know you'd love to get sports back as quickly and safely as possible. So thank you for what you're doing.
Absolutely,
And
positively.
Thank
well,
you.
the one thing is, when I threw the first pitch out in Washington a couple years ago, I remember everybody talked about. They said, "Why are you doing it from the rubber?" I said, "Because that's where you pitch from."
You're like, oh.
And I thank God and the catcher at the time said, "Well, it was a typical ball, high and outside. At least it went across the plate."
That is a
Didn't hit the
victory.
It is a privilege and an honor to welcome the Vice President of the United States.
Everybody talked about. They said, "Why are you doing it from the rubber?" I said, "Because that's where you pitch from." The catcher at the time said, "Well, it was a typical ball, high and outside. At least it went across the plate."
Oh.
This is 3.5 years ago. So big picture, because the policies, the way the country's being run, disaster. It's an unmitigated disaster at this point.
Well, Trump left office and Biden came into office. It stopped because the Taliban believed Trump. They don't believe Biden. It's obvious. Now, unintended consequences all day long. And this is what Biden will never understand because it's too much for him to absorb. Number one, more than 1,000 ISIS criminals in prison in Afghanistan have been released.
Oh.
Where do you think they're going? They're coming right after us. Okay. Number two, billions of dollars of American ordnance now in the hands of the Taliban.
Oh.
Captured American weapons, ammunition, trucks, tanks, you name it. They got them. Biden didn't protect them. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Three, the human rights thing is just off the chart. Where's Me Too? Where's Time's Up? You heard anything from them? I mean, the women are going to get just hammered.
Oh.
And no woman in Afghanistan will escape it. Not one.
Really? Okay.
And Kabul had built schools for women, for girls, to educate them, to get them involved in what was supposed to be a growing middle class. Gone. Biden know that? Okay.
Okay.
I am your voice.
Let's kill their family. Now, let's break out family here. Let's be more specific. Babies,
You're like, oh.
daughters, sons,
You're like, oh.
grandmothers,
Like, oh. Oh.
moms, right? So that's what Donald Trump is saying. Let's kill their babies.
You're like, oh.
Let's kill their mothers.
You're like, oh.
Let's kill their grandfathers.
They're dead. They're dead. As far as I'm concerned, they're dead.
Oh, look at that.
Let's butcher them all.
And he said, if you harm a hair on a single American, I'm going to kill you.
So they're dead as far as I'm concerned.
You don't participate in a coalition government, you attack Americans, do anything, okay? Then we're coming back and we're going to get you.